Hello, Tim Goff here from Youth Work Hacks, and we're here today with an interview. I am joined by Chloe Perrin. Say hi, Chloe.
Hello.
Chloe is a playwright and an author living right now in Wales. No, you're not in Wales. Where are you? You're in London.
I'm in West London.
London.
Yeah.
Wales and London, very easy to mix those two.
Basically the same place.
They are basically the same place.
Same language.
Chloe used to live in Wales. She used to be part of my team. She's responsible for the Youth Work Hacks comics. And also Chloe used to write sketches and our Christmas nativities. Do you remember the nativities?
They're ingrained in my memory.
I think Hobbit Wars, which was Harry Potter and Star Wars and The Hobbit all mixed together, was my favourite.
It's my favourite. That's my favourite piece of writing I've ever done.
Yeah, good. Chloe, tell us something interesting about what you're doing on your quarantine days.
Well, as you can tell, I'm definitely washing my hair all the time now that I don't see people. You can definitely tell. To be honest, I am not getting nearly as much work done as I should be, considering I have literally nowhere to go. But it's nice. I'm doing yoga.
Nice.
Yeah, I've hurt myself.
Good job. Good start. And Chloe and I are going to talk today about comedy. Chloe is hilarious for all the right and some of the wrong reasons. And yes, and we're going to talk about comedy and youth work. And Chloe's had a lot of experience writing comedy and just being generally comedic. So Chloe,
a lot of pressure to put on an interview, Tim.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the pressure. But Chloe, let's start off with an obvious question or a broad question. Why is comedy important? Why is comedy important to society? Why is comedy important to people generally?
Society needs comedy. I mean, everyone needs comedy. It's escapism, but it's also one of the best ways to teach. Everything's more memorable when it's funny. Political campaigns have been completely overthrown by satire. It's powerful. Yeah.
It's fantastic. And there is something in the human spirit that just wakens up when they laugh. The things in us open up to receive things that we might not have received or would have been maybe in poor taste if it wasn't meant to be funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And I remember was one of the things that the pastor of the church where I did a sketch comedy used to say, because we did our sketches first before they did any of the other things like the worship or the preaching. And every now and then they'd say like, oh, maybe we should put it after the worship or after something else. And the pastor would be like, no, because it's the comedy that gets the people who aren't used to church to stay in the service. No. It's comforting, it's funny, and it makes you realise that we're all kind of the same in a good way, not in one of those depressing ways.
And that's brilliant, because I used to go to that church and Chloe and a small team would start off the service with just 3 or 4 minutes of comedy sketch. And it did make the whole room feel lighter immediately before they got into anything serious. Yeah, really helpful. Chloe, I want to move on to young people. We were talking just before we started filming, and I said, I've not read this anywhere, but I'm sure that this is the most comedically literate generation there's ever been. And what do you think? And this is what you said.
Everyone's really, really funny. Like everyone now, like one of the things, like, because I did youth work with Tim, of course, and I also did youth work with a lot of drama, like youth music theatre companies. And one of the things that like constantly astounded me was the fact that like every single young person I've ever met is hilarious, funnier than I ever remember myself being at that age or this age or any age I'll ever be. There's like a weird like a communal understanding of comedy that evidently the older generation doesn't always have. I mean, if I can like be really cringy for a moment, just looking at like Vine and TikTok, there's skill of editing that's gone into these basically sketch comedy, basically just all these little sketches, and they're all genuinely good. There's a genuine understanding that most older people had to learn. When I say older people, I do mean me. So yeah.
Yes, and that's awkward because I know I'm 10 years older than you. And
I know that. Yeah. I look 16.
It sounds like you're saying that comedy is ingrained in the language of young people. And as youth workers, we work really hard at trying to speak young people's language. And it might be we're missing a trick by not trying to be conversant in their comedy, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
It does. I'd worry at that point of being like, because I understand what you mean. There's a danger in people thinking, okay, we need to do what the young people are doing. We need to be funny in that way. And therein lies cringe. Therein lies the youth group that, that don't come back. It's, there's a danger in copying what we see.
Yeah, so is there a third way then? So we're not trying to be imitators of their world, but we also don't want to be ignorant of their world. Is there a third way?
Be part of their world, watch the things they're watching, see what they're making. If they're creating things, have a look at it. Like, you can be an active part of that world without, like you said, being an imitator. And as well, it's like, it's not, I made it sound kind of like it's like, no, that's young person comedy and this is anyone else's comedy. And it's like, it's obviously it's not like that. Everyone's got different tastes and it all works different.
And laughter is a universal language, and we can tell jokes that make them laugh without making them their jokes, right? We can still make them laugh, hopefully, and be part of them and enjoy comedy with them without trying to pretend that we're TikToking like they're TikToking. TikTok, is that a verb? Yeah. Is that a verb? I'm making that a verb.
It is now.
It's going to get TikToky with it. Let's edit that bit out.
So we were talking about cringe.
That's what I'm here for. Well, I want to talk a bit more about teaching. You mentioned teaching earlier on, and teaching is a huge part of what we do in church and what we do in youth work. And we do remember things that make us laugh. And I'm just wondering, have you got any insight? Why is that true? Why do we remember so much that we find funny?
To me, there's a big connection between like what you're learning and the mood you're in when you're learning it. Usually comedy has like a setup and a punchline, and it's small, it's a snippet, it's easily memorable. Odds are if you're laughing, you're probably happy to be there. You're probably paying more attention anyway because it's funny than you would if it were just a simple lecture. And there's just different things that happen when you're laughing with someone as well. You can make these connections with the person who's talking. That just it's just different. It's good. Well, in the same way, the same way maybe that if you have a particularly scary preacher who's preaching hellfire, you're probably going to remember that very well as well because of the mood that attaches to what they're saying and the emotions. It's just doing
that's helpful. That's helpful. So there's a sort of a peak of emotional impact, and you're more likely to remember things in that impact. But the thing about comedy is it comes with those peak impacts, but it also connects you with the community, and it makes you feel good.
It makes you feel good.
Yeah, you want to remember things that make you feel good. That makes sense. Let's sit with that for a minute, because it looks like not a lot of preachers, including myself, are naturally good at this. Like, what do you say to a speaker or a teacher who don't think they're naturally funny? So how could they possibly bring more comedy into their talks that isn't cringeworthy?
Okay, so what I'd say to this is, one, if you're not naturally funny, I mean, that's fine. Don't force it. The worst thing to do is to force it. You can still be, and as well, like, let's put this aside as well, put this on the table as well. You can be a very good, memorable speaker without being funny. Like, that's just a fact as well. But if you are trying to inject humor into your talks, don't force it. Forcing it is cringy. I'll say cringe a lot because that's one of the main reasons like we don't find people funny. It's because they make us go, ugh, it's uncomfortable. Also, comedy it's a skill. Like, some people are naturally funny, but a lot of people, you learn it. Sometimes you start to emulate the way that people around you talk, and that might make you funnier, whatever. But either way, it's a skill, and it's a skill that needs to be learned and needs to be honed. I think if it's something that you are really wanting to do, and you want to do it to the best of your ability, which is to the glory of God, then you have to learn it. You can take classes, you can practice. Also, there's a wealth of like resources as well. Like, you might find like there's a sketch online that really demonstrates your point. You can put that on. That's fine. That's funny. It doesn't have to be all on you. You don't have to be a stand-up comedian to preach. And sometimes it's weird if you are.
That's great. I want to just emphasize some of that stuff because that's really helpful things now. One is you could be a curator of funny resources that are already in the world. Don't try and emulate it all yourself. But the other one was just this honing the skill. because for years I had a phobia of singing. Chloe knows me quite well, and she knows about this. And it felt for a while like you could sing or you couldn't. You were musical or you weren't. Of course, it's not true. If you're not musical, naturally you learn it, and you learn the skill. And I wonder if there's a taboo around comedy that people think, well, if you're not naturally funny, you're just not naturally funny. But actually, you're saying it is something that it's not shameful to learn it. It's not a taboo to learn it. It's fine. These professional comedians probably do it.
Every professional comedian, if you look at, all you have to do is go on YouTube, look up early stand-up sets, and odds are they're not nearly as funny as they are now. Everybody learns comedy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, and if you see a stand-up show, the great thing about YouTube now is you can watch these shows from around the world. Often the comedian is repeating the same show. So it looks very natural on stage, but really it's a performance that they've memorized, they've learned, like any other sketch.
And one thing that's about being in a university at the moment is we get a lot of comedy acts, and you start to think, oh, it's great because they're coming for the students and stuff. Now they come to us to practice their new material.
Wow.
Because we're not as harsh an audience. we can be, but yeah. So it's really good, and they're quite. I know we had Chappie Kosandi come earlier this year. She was amazing, but one of the things she was very open about was she would be like, right, this is a new joke, I'm going to see how it does, and then she would critique herself at the end. But it was very funny, and it just it goes to show it is a skill.
In youth work teams, there's often these layers of banter. And then with the young people, there's this banter. And someone said something at a seminar I went to a few months ago that went something like this. Banter without bonding is bullying. And I'm just wondering, because you do lots of comedy, and when does the comedy become too far, especially in Christian circles? When are we crossing the line? When does it cease to become helpful? When does the banter become, do you know what I mean? When does the comedy become not funny anymore? So
this is fun for me because I am a League of Gentlemen fan, so sometimes I don't know when too far is too far. So for me, it gets awkward when the joke is about a person. Especially if the idea is that we're all laughing and the punchline is a single person. That because it's difficult because there's the excuse as well of well, they're laughing too, and it's like, well, are they laughing because everyone's laughing? That's just something that we should always be mindful of, is just because they're laughing doesn't mean they want to be laughing. And yeah, I think you're right. I think if you want to banter, you do need to spend a lot of time with someone. Yeah. Especially with a youth group, because odds are they're looking to everyone else for what to do, and they're looking to the older people in the room to know what to do. And if the older people in the room are making fun of them and everyone's laughing, they're not going to call you out on it, and you're not going to know until it's too late that they were upset with you. And also, you're fostering an environment where it's okay to single out a person. I think as well, if it's I think my rule of thumb as well, if I'm making fun of someone or something, is if it doesn't apply to me, I don't have the right to make fun of it. I make fun of Christians because I identify as a Christian. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't make fun of Muslims because why? It's not funny, and also I don't have the right to do that. I know that's sort of inflicting rules on comedy, but these are my rules for it. These are the things that make me feel more comfortable. So yeah, those are my basic things to just look out for, is if it's singling someone out or if it doesn't apply to you, then you don't know how someone would feel if it were made fun of. And as well, probably another just good rule of thumb, especially with young people, is wait to see if they've made fun of it themselves. If they haven't called it out on themselves, then odds are it's not something they want to joke about. But yeah, there's because banter can be fun. Banter can be it can be a form of bonding as well. I wouldn't just completely demonize it. But yeah, it's definitely something I think people jump in too quick with. it's definitely something you do when you know someone and you know them well, and you know them well enough as well that you know if they were upset, they'd come to you. If you don't think they'd come to you if they were upset, then don't risk it.
No, that's really helpful. That actually makes me think of another question that you might be able to have some insight on. This is a very funny generation. We've talked about that, but I'm even reluctant to say it because I hate a lot of the media reporting on it, but it's also quite a sensitive generation. And there seems to be a lot of, like you put your rules on comedy, that's fine, but also seems to be these sort of implicit social media rules that people get very, very upset about things aren't okay to joke about. And sometimes you go, are you just being a little bit oversensitive there? Is there sometimes when, I'm not even sure how to phrase the question, where's the line between being respectful of people's boundaries and on the other side, sometimes people are just being a little bit overly sensitive towards something that's just very particular to them?
So I think the first thing I want to do is kind of call out the generational thing. I think that's everyone. Yeah, I think the amount of people who get upset when you say, okay, boomer, proves that it's not generational people who are getting upset. If you're upset that there's a vegan option on a menu, it's, I don't think it's right. Just young people who are being upset by this. So I think of an example. So I think of the example of me as as a gay person. I'm not massively into other people making fun of the LGBT community, like when people go, oh, what is it, like LGBTQ plus ABCD and stuff like that, and I'm like, I get you're making a joke, but odds are you're not in that community and you don't understand the history behind it. So I think there's an element of we should just be being kind to each other anyway. And I think in terms of, is this just a sensitive generation or is it not, I don't think that massively matters. I think if people are upset, they're upset. There's definitely an element of people getting too upset about something, but most of the time that doesn't mean we need to make fun of them until they're not upset about it anymore.
That's good.
It means we need to ask them why they're upset. There's never any I don't see the point in forcing someone to laugh at something they're not laughing at. Even if you think they're being sensitive, it just doesn't matter. A joke is never worth that much.
It's great. That's really, really helpful. It's a very wise answer. I mean, on the flip side, of course, you don't want someone who's upset to then dictate rules for a whole generation of people because they were upset. But at the same time, it sounds like what you're saying is just lead with kindness. And if people are upset, don't get into legalities of it, get into conversation.
Well, also as well, we do talk a lot about, people are setting the rules for what does this not. I mean, do you know anyone who's been told not to joke about something who has then not joked about it anyway? There are no. We like to think we're being oppressed when we're not.
Yeah,
is my hot take.
No, and that's really, really helpful. It's a very, very wise response. I think be kind is a hashtag that needs to do the rounds again at the moment. Chloe, this has been really helpful. Couple of quick fire questions before we lock this out. Favorite comedian right now?
Oh, gosh. I'm cheating. I'm picking two. It's Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton. They're my big favourites at the moment.
Nice. Is slapstick comedy dead?
Absolutely not. How many YouTube videos do you see a day of someone running into a sign? It's hilarious. It's all the time. Fine, it's not dead. It's silly.
Is sarcasm the lowest form of wit?
Only to people who can't use it right.
I want to ask what's the best joke you've ever heard, but that's probably not an easy quick fire question.
That requires thought.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I mean, you winning Premier Digital 3 times in a row is the funniest joke I've ever heard.
Bless you. Oh, that's terrible. No,
so talking about banter and making fun. We've known each other over 10 years.
Too long.
Much too long.
In fact, Chloe was at my interview when I first got my job.
Yes, I was.
She didn't like me.
No, I didn't.
Chloe, this has been massively helpful. Any final words, something that you wish you got a chance to say, but I never gave you an opening to?
Let me look at the notes I made.
You've got notes.
I have like 3 notes, and one of them literally just says "Banter League of Gentlemen." One of my friends. I don't know. I think. Yeah. I guess just these are my rules of comedy, and these are my thoughts on it. But comedy is so subjective, and you might have seen some of my writing. I really not thought it was funny, so it's absolutely fine to completely disagree as long as you're not being a jerk about it.
Fab. That's great. Chloe, this has been brilliant. I always like to give people an opportunity to plug something. I know you've got contracts that are about to break, so it's kind of hard to know how to plug. How do people find out more about you and the things that you're getting on with?
You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Instagram, because I plug my own stuff relentlessly. I am annoying on social media, so do follow me. Yeah, it's annoying because you're right. I have stuff that's about to be a thing that's not quite a thing yet. So I'll let you know when things happen.
Cool. When things happen. When things happen, Chloe will let you know. Chloe, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you again.
Thank you for having me. Goodbye.